Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a screenwriter's rant on MacGruber with Will Forte and Kristen Wiig, a comedy movie. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Please check out my books. Links in the description if you like comedy. The Pineys, horror comedy in South Jersey, books 1 through 7. Support the channel if you can. And now I'm going to complain about Saturday Night Live again. MacGruber, right. Look, Will Forte on Saturday Night Live doing MacGruber was okay. Because at the time, MacGyver, which this is a parody of, for those of you who haven't, probably weren't even born yet, there was a show called MacGyver, and this was a sketch, a parody of MacGyver. And he's still dressed like MacGyver because that was the whole MacGruber character. MacGyver was a pretty decent show. I mean, it was ripe to be. There's Billy Zane as the villain. It was ripe for parody, and the MacGruber skit was okay. It was, another one in a long line of SNL skits that, was okay. At least with MacGruber, it was parodying something, right? There was something there. There was something there to make fun of. And yeah, MacGyver was pretty ridiculous in some episodes. But this is like way too late, I would say. Way too late to the party to do a MacGruber thing. And it's like, I don't know what this is. Who is this aimed at? So I guess people who enjoy comedy from, how old is that MacGruber sketch? It's got to be like 20 years old. I don't even know, when was Will Forte on SNL? I don't remember all the dates off the top of my head. And I get it. It's an SNL movie. All these guys are locked in. I mean, it's a streaming movie. It's not in theaters, which is I think an appropriate place for it. So I think it's not reaching too high. If this was in theaters, I'd be like, oh man, no. A streaming movie, okay. I'm sure there's an audience for it. I don't know. I mean, they seem to have spent a lot of money. I mean, Ryan Philippe, Lawrence Fishburne, Billy Zane, Will Forte, Kristen Wiig. I mean, that's a lot of names in this thing. I mean, they didn't spend no money, and there's a ton of explosions and gunfights and stunts. So they seem to have spent a decent amount of money on this. But I mean, no offense to Will Forte, he's okay sometimes, but he's not hilarious. He never really knocks it out of the park, right? Like if you watch The Last Man on Earth, which by the way, the first episode is kind of interesting, and then he ceases to be the last man on Earth if you haven't seen it. And that's where the whole show goes right down the tubes, because the interesting thing about it was called The Last Man on Earth, and then every other friggin' episode they were adding new characters. It's like, well, I thought he was supposed to be the last man on Earth. And then when they added Kristen Wiig, I thought, okay, he's the last man on Earth. No, then they added other male characters too, and I was just like, that's not the point of the show. I thought it was going to be like a cool show where they explore like a guy who's just alone. It would have been very interesting if that was a comedic version of Why the Last Man, and it was like women fighting over him. I mean, that would have been kind of interesting. But he's the sort of actor who, and he's a comedic guy, so I don't blame him for doing this, but he clowns up everything he does. And when I say he clowns it up, he's not, like Zach Galifianakis, who I can't really stand because his comedy tends to go too meta too fast. But like Zach will at least go for the jugular. I don't feel like Will Forte goes for the jugular in this, in anything really. He just kind of does sort of some semi-funny stuff, and it's okay. It's amusing sometimes, but it's not like, wow, that was hilarious, or oh my god, I can't believe he did that. And even this trailer is just like, I mean, one of the bits. And this is always a weak choice. It's a weak choice to go vulgar for no reason, right? So the scene is between him and Kristen Wiig and it appears to be towards the end of the movie, and he says something. It's time for a little R&R, and she goes, "Oh, I could use a little rest and relaxation." And then he, of course, comes with two other R&Rs, which are really gross, which I won't repeat because YouTube would probably flag me for them. This is a Red Band trailer, by the way. And I'm not like a prude, but it's not. It's just not that funny, especially for MacGruber. Like the whole deal was he was parodying MacGyver, and MacGyver's deal was he would make like a machine gun out of a paper clip and a box he found on the ground, like stuff like that. Like that, to me, would be at least part of the comedy. That's not even in the trailer. That he can create stuff out of nothing. But that's not even in this. So, it's like gotten so far away from what it parodied. What is it now? Is it just an excuse for Will Forte to mug the camera and Kristen Wiig to... I don't know what she does anymore, quite frankly. I'm so sick of seeing her. I mean, how many more, Kristen Wiig, I know she was in the original sketches, but she's kind of S the bed on so many different comedy movies at this point. So many different movies, really. I can't even remember I guess the last movie she was kind of funny in would have been Bridesmaids. Right? I wouldn't count Ghostbusters. God, no. Wonder Woman wasn't meant to be funny. So... it's like some people they get into the studio system and the studio loves them. They keep putting them in stuff, but, how many more things are we going to see with these guys that is just like, I don't know. This is just like such a meh movie. I wouldn't see this. What the hell is it on? It's on Peacock. I don't have Peacock, but even if I did, I wouldn't watch this. It just looks dumb. It doesn't look funny or clever. Like, I'm not sure how they could modernize this. Like, if you go back to MacGyver, okay, it's an old show, but, I mean, that's the audience for this, right? So you could do that, and I don't know what else you'd connect it to. I don't know why MacGruber's in jail, or why the movie starts out with him in jail. Was he in jail before for some reason? I don't remember. Was there another MacGruber movie? I vaguely remember something. And that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. Of course, I don't remember a lot, but still, I just don't see the point in this. Is this the only thing they could dig up for Will Forte to be in? I mean, what about an original movie? What about an original movie where he gets to play a comedic guy, and then you're not saddled with MacGruber's shtick? You could do whatever you want. I mean, you could do a parody of, I don't know, whatever, James Bond or whatever. I'll tell you one thing it's got going for it. It doesn't look woke. I'll say that. That would be the only reason I would even check it out if I found the time. It doesn't look funny, but at least it's not lecturing me. So I'll give it that. It's got guns in it. Regular looking bad guys, Lawrence Fishburne and Billy Zane, and so, I mean, is it worth watching? I guess if you watched SNL during that window of time and you really liked MacGruber and MacGyver, maybe. So the first act, MacGruber gets out of jail. I mean, this is a comedy, so it's going to be pretty standard. Second act, he's recruited to go after Billy Zane, who he personally knows, of course, because you gotta make it personal. So he goes after him, and doesn't quite work out. And then in the third act, he turns it all around. The end. So they're gonna follow the format pretty well in a parody movie like this. So format is usually not an issue. The issue is the jokes. Is this gonna be funny? But you have a ridiculous character already, MacGruber. Like, there's no seriousness to him, so it's already ridiculous. So you're already starting way up here. Way up here. So now you're going to go further. But that's the wrong way to go, which is why they probably should have started over with a completely different concept. But this is Hollywood. They don't want to start with new concepts because they're afraid you won't go see them. You know, if they called this some name you never heard of, then people would be like, I've never heard of that. I mean, you could say from the makers of MacGruber, maybe. I don't know. You could pick a new character. I mean, this is part of the problem with parody in general. Now, we're in a place in time where television is so... The audience for television is so atomized. Who watches TV anymore? Like, these parodies used to work all the time, right? So if you go back in time, like, I don't know, say to the 80s, and you did a parody of, I don't know, Miami Vice, right? Miami Vice was a TV show in the 80s. It had a very stylized look. It was very serious and kind of dark. Everybody saw it because it was the it show at the time, and it was before the internet. So you could do parodies of Miami. You could do a 2-hour parody of Miami Vice, and it would hold up. Because, number one, your audience will have seen Miami Vice a bunch of times. They would know all the tropes. They would know all the characters, and they would get all the jokes that you would make about the characters. This relies on people who are probably kind of older. I mean, my age... I mean, probably you're talking at least 30, 35 and up. I'm not even sure the year. You know, before then, are they even going to remember this character? Or the original character and then this character? So, then the question is, who do you parody? The only guy left, kinda, is... I mean, you could maybe do a parody of James Bond. You could do a parody of the Marvel movies, right? You could definitely do a parody of that. You could pick the Marvel characters. You know, you could do a parody of Thor, let's say. Pick the most popular one, Iron Man. Yeah, do a parody of Iron Man. That would be funny, right? Everybody's seen Iron Man. This generation has seen Iron Man. You make it kind of serious. Because you've never seen this character before, you would assume he's sort of serious going in. See, with MacGruber, I already assume he's ridiculous to begin with. So it raises the bar way high to make me laugh. And, you know, and then it starts out ridiculous. You know, him in a prison fighting other prisoners, and they were already doing bits. If they had done this in, like, the 80s back, they would have started with a character who was not totally serious, but serious enough. If you look at, let's say, the Blues Brothers, right? The Blues Brothers, you kind of have seen them. They were on SNL, but you hadn't seen them in a movie where they talk and you don't know their background and anything. But that movie starts with Jake getting out of jail, right? But it's very serious for the most part. And Jake's not clowning it up. Jake's being serious. Belushi, who plays Jake, is dead serious. So, he gets out of jail. They give him back his stuff. That's a funny scene. But again, it's not Jake, and you kind of don't even see him. Then Elwood picks him up in an old police cruiser. And then finally the dialogue starts. And all they do is argue, and they're mad, and he has to go see, you know, the guys in the orphanage and the penguin, and it's not starting way up here because Jake as a character is kind of a sad guy who ended up in jail. It's later when things start to get crazy that, you know, then Jake starts doing crazy stuff, right? So later in the movie when he's giving his monologue to Carrie Fisher, baby, I forgot. I went out for cigarettes, and I didn't know. I didn't have your number. I couldn't find a phone. I'm so sorry. I swear to God. I mean, by the time he reaches that, I mean, he has somewhere to go, right? He starts way down here. By the time he gets to that scene, he's way up here. MacGruber already starts halfway up. And Will Forte isn't going to go much further than that. Hate to say. It's not that he's an untalented guy. Maybe he just needs better material. Kristen Wiig, not untalented, needs better material. I know Lawrence Fishburne and Billy Zane are friggin' talented. I'll tell you who would be a better lead. Billy Zane. Billy Zane in a lead of a movie like this would be amazing. Because you would take him seriously from the beginning. And then when he started doing goofy stuff, it would be funny. You wouldn't expect it, and that's the surprise. With Will Forte, you're like, okay, MacGruber, make me laugh from the moment you see him. And that puts more pressure on him. It doesn't give you that, it makes you've completely screwed up the expectations of the audience. They're way up here. Make me laugh, funny man. Billy Zane, they don't have that expectation right out the gate. By halfway through the movie, you're really going to have to kick it up. And that's part of the problem. If you're going to build a comedy, build it. And MacGruber, not a good choice, in my view. That's my rant. I'm Tony D. Check us out on Bitchute and Rumble for our other 2 videos today. 4 videos a day, right, Little Joe? And we'll see you